Okay, so HipBeat. To say it's the next film, I don't know, right? Because I don't know if I would call it a film. It is something. It's definitely something. Okay, so it is from writer and director um Samuel Kay Forrest. Okay. Uh yeah, he writes, he directs. Um it is, hold on, where's the other information? Produced by um Alexander Forrest and Samuel K. Forrest. So I do wonder if they're related. Co-produced by Joachim van Bruggen, Beatrix Michelet, Ian Longram. Associate produced by Emile Forrest, Gabriel Rafato, and Marie Celine Yidrim, and executive produced by Eve Jean van Brandenburg, Martine Milou, and Azig van Brandenburg. Music is from Julian Onelli and Phantoms of the Tribe. Cinematography is Joshua Monroe. It's edited by Kieran Peters and Cornelia Pont. Casting was from Amelia Forrest and Joachim van Bruggen. Art direction is Tadja Mezi. Costume design is Lil Wade Collins. Uh, so yes, there is that. Now, the gist of this film, right? So this is what it says. Love is revolution. Angie is a political activist fighting against the system while searching for love in the Berlin queer community. They protest by day and rave at night in the underground of the city. Based on true events, Hip Beat is a narrative film that contains moments of realism. Protests in Berlin provided inspiration. The film tells the story of a political activist fighting against the system while searching for love in the Berlin queer community. Inspired by the films of Jean Luc Godard, John Caviezel, Sidney Lumet, Martin Scorsese, and Steve McQueen, HipBeat incorporates real elements of LGBTQ plus lived experiences into its plot. And yeah, it's using a lot of first time um actors in the piece, which yeah, I it does kind of show, right? It does kind of show. Uh they talk about in the press notes that the crew got arrested at anti-fascist protests in the making of the film, which, I mean, it's not difficult to get arrested. You know what I mean? If you're at certain events and you film it, you're gonna get arrested. So I mean, don't think that's anything crazy. Now, Forrest does say, right, the the love revolution taking place in Berlin inspired me to start a conversation about love, gender, and politics. Right. And so when I say I don't know if this is a film, I mean, because the way it starts off, right? We have, yeah, let me give you the characters. Because that's the thing, because it's like me. based on reality, but then we got these made up characters, and you're just like, okay, what are we doing? But Samuel K. Forrest is Angus. We've got Marie Celine Yidrim as Angie, his girlfriend. There's a Beatrix Michelet as Beatrix, Andrina Manfredi as Lily, Enzo Di Ligaro as Zed, Ian Longram as Jamie, Jurgen Van Ness as Marcus, and Javier Tabada as Pedro. So there are a lot of other people in the piece. You know, there's a lot of rave scenes and just other things going on. So yeah, it's a big cast and way too many to mention. Way too many people to mention. Right. But yeah, it opens up and we have Angus kind of walking around, looking at the city and just all of this. And he you know, we've got him narrating, and it sounds, you know, you think, oh, is this a visual poem, right? Because that's how it starts. You kind of feel it's this you know, street poetry, right? Encapsulated in these visual images that were being shown. But then you kind of be like, actually, it's not that, right? And we get this scene with him and his parents. But the way, like, there's a lot of really close-up shots, like of the mouth moving, and like, you know what I mean, bit too close, a bit too close. And we're getting this whole thing because we walk into this conversation, right? We're just thrown into it. And it's just like, and I never feel like loved or wanted, and you always doubt me, and blah, 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 blah. And we get all of this, like, completely feels out of context because we have no clue. We don't even know who Angus is at this point, really. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's this thing, and you're just, and this is in Amsterdam, right? This bit's in Amsterdam. And we're like, okay, right? But there's, you know, we don't know Angus. So it's hard to be like, oh man, I feel for this dude. You know what I mean? You're just like, we're only getting this one side of this, right? Like, if we had been with the character, we'd have an understanding of the character. Then I think you might go, you know what I mean? You might be a bit more, you know, with this whole incident, but you, no, you don't. Like, and the narration isn't enough, right? That's not enough for us to know who the fuck Angus is, right? So we then get these time jumps, like 96 hours, 72 hours, 24 hours, you know, this kind of thing. And we see him now in that Berlin, right? And he's talking about, oh, he's met Angie and they're in love and blah, 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 blah. But then we get this whole, oh, but I don't know if I trust her. Oh, what if she leaves me? And then we get like Angie's point of view, and oh, I love him, but what if he leaves me? What if we get all of this? But then you doubt everything that Angus is telling you from some of the stuff we're being shown, right? You're like, wait, what the fuck is going on here? You know what I mean? We're being shown like infidelity and just all this other random stuff. At first, you wonder, wait, is this Angie again? Because it's in the dark and it's hard to see. Now, I say it's hard to see. Maybe it's clear if your sight is good, right? But for me, I'm looking, I'm like, is that Angie? I don't know. Is that the same girl? Then we work out it's not, right? And so you're just like, talking about trust, but then being a sneaky fuck, right? And that's the weird thing. There's a lot of stuff that gets talked about in the film, but the actions of the character, you really like, yo, you can't talk on this shit in this way when you're doing all this stuff, right? And as I said, look, we have no clue about the character, and everything is one way, and then all of a sudden, it shifts, right? Like, what when I say it shifts, I'm like his dalliances shift, which is fine, right? It's not like, oh, I don't want to see that. That's dirty. No, it's odd because it's not voiced, right? We get all of this narration and we see all of this stuff, but it's never. We don't get the. Oh, all we get is I don't know who I am, but I don't know who I am isn't I don't my gender is in flux. They're completely two different things, right? There's two different statements right there. So the film is it does feel like it's all over the place. We have these musical beds under certain scenes which just don't really feel quite right. You know what I mean? And the camera work, it is because there's certain scenes where the camera's just at these weird angles, which doesn't really bring anything to the scene. Like I'm all about funky angles, right? It because it can bring a new perspective to what we're watching, and that's cool. That's flavor. I'm down with that. But it's like you if you're going for a weird angle, you want it to help shine a light on what is being perceived. And I didn't really feel that some of these did that, you know? It didn't really work in that context. And, at the start, when I said, you could feel that a lot of these actors are new. It was some of the dialogue was a little wooden. Some of the interactions are wooden, or they went on just too long. Right? You think that could be edited down a little bit, or I mean, like they should have been given a bit more direction in certain scenes to bring this bit to life. Because there's things that didn't quite work, like the whole graffiti bit. I mean, it wasn't great graffiti, right? And it's not like every bit of graffiti on the walls and shit that you see is great, but when it's not great, you do wonder, like, yo, why are you doing this, man? Like, at least practice, get better. You know what I mean? But it's just we're seeing all of these different kind of weird elements, like the graffiti, and like there's this talk about hacking and just these different things about like breaking the system. Then that whole narrative shifts to a feminine point of view, and you're just like, wait, where does that come from? And the point of views, they don't. There feels like there's nothing behind them. You know what I mean? It's just things being said, because it's just like, yo, if I'm gonna say something, right, I'm gonna back that shit up. I'm gonna give you my perspective on why I believe this thing. But we don't, I didn't feel we had that. And, to be fair, you don't have to do that. But I think for me as a viewer, I needed something to anchor me into the piece, because we're seeing all this random stuff, right? People finding themselves. But if you're talking about finding yourself, then it needs to be tied to something, right? What's the end goal? What are you looking for? Because it's like the things you're saying you're looking for, some of those things you have, but you decide to toss away, right? There's these weird statements like, oh, everyone in Berlin is in a polyamorous relationship. And I'm like, I don't know if you can say that. You know what I mean? I don't know if you can say that. I met a few people in Berlin, they weren't poly. You feel me? Um, and it's like, yo, it's not to say there aren't, because there's people in poly, situations everywhere. But it's like if it's like, if you're like love CrossFit, you hang out with people that love CrossFit. So in your mind, yo, everyone does CrossFit. No, everyone doesn't. Right. So saying like making these broad statements, it gets a little crazy. But it's just like there seems an inherent dishonesty in the character, right? In the way they're doing things and, the truths they're telling people, which again doesn't make him likable. So, I didn't really feel I had anything tying me to the film, right? Holding my interest. Now, I will say, look, it it kind of felt like a final year assignment in film school, you know, which isn't to say it's terrible, right? But it felt like a first time piece. You know what I mean? It felt like there was a message that Samuel wanted to get across, but it was just it couldn't really find that way to bring it all together. But you know, I think people will find it interesting. There are a lot of flashing lights, so if you do have epilepsy, you know what I mean? I might not watch it, right? Or do the thing you need to do to protect yourself from having a seizure or something, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's odd, right? But oddies are fine. People like odd. If you want something experimental, if you want a story that isn't necessarily linear, right, and is just a full explosion, then yeah, hit beat it's probably going to be for you, right? And you can get it from all your favorite VODs on Monday the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. Boom. So yeah, if this, you like foreign explorative films, then people, maybe HipBeat is for you.